My sister died during a game of hide-and-seek 8 years ago, and the 5 of us who were there that night still can't agree on a single thing that happened. I used to think trauma explained it. Memories blur after something terrible happens. That's what I told myself for 8 years. But our memories aren't just blurry. They're changing, getting worse, shifting into new shapes every time we talk about that night. Last month, I asked my friend Jonah what phase the moon was that night. He stared at me for almost a full minute before answering. "There wasn't one," he said. I told him I remembered it, reflecting on the water. He just repeated himself. "There wasn't one." Then he asked why I was smiling. I wasn't. That conversation is why I'm writing this down now, before anything else in my head decides to rearrange itself. My name is Ellie. My sister Willow was 4 years older than me, and she was the best person I knew. She taught me to ride a bike, to whistle through grass, to spot deer before they saw us. She never treated me like I was in the way. If her friends rode to the creek, I trailed behind on my little bike, and she'd always reach a hand back for me without even looking. We lived in a tiny town surrounded by forest. One road in, same road out. Everybody knew everybody. Willow's friend group was small. There was Zeke, the kind of kid who liked finding out what scared you. Nora, his cousin, awkward and sweet. Bee, who always looked like she was listening for something the rest of us couldn't hear. And Jonah, 13, steady, the one person Zeke could never get a reaction out of. A week after my 10th birthday, my parents went into the city for dinner and left Willow in charge. By 7, our living room was full of all of them. We'd gone through snacks, drinks, every board game in the house when Zeke announced he was bored. Then he smiled and said he knew a game. "It's just hide and seek," he said. "You play it in the woods." Bee went quiet immediately. She said her grandmother had a saying that some games are made for people, and some games were never meant for people at all. Zeke laughed it off, said his cousin from Miller's Crossing had taught him the rules, split into pairs. When he whistled once, every flashlight goes off. When he whistled again, they come back on. Nora asked what happens if someone cheats. Zeke said his cousin told him the consequences could be severe. Then, almost as an afterthought, he added one more rule, looking straight at me. "No crying," he said. "If you cry, something hears you." He laughed it off as a joke a second later. Willow crouched down to my eye level and promised he was lying. I believed her. I said I'd play anyway. I didn't want to be the baby of the group. That's the last completely normal conversation I remember having with my sister. An hour later, she was gone. Zeke counted us into the trees at the edge of town, where the trail narrows and the branches close overhead like a tunnel. He handed out flashlights his cousin supposedly told him we'd need. We split into our usual pairs. I remember Willow going with Zeke. Jonah swears to this day that she grabbed his arm instead, right before the counting started. Nora remembers her walking off completely alone. Bee insists there were never any pairs at all. Jonah and I hid behind a fallen tree. The first whistle came, one long note. Every flashlight clicked off at once, and the dark that followed wasn't ordinary dark. I held my hand an inch from my face and saw nothing. We sat there, footsteps somewhere close, careful, slow, and then, right in front of us, I swear I heard breathing that wasn't Jonah's. The second whistle came, short and sharp, and the lights went back on. Jonah says the dark only lasted a few seconds. I remember sitting in it for what felt like 10 minutes. When we got back to the trail, everyone else was there. Everyone except Willow. We called her name. Nothing came back but silence, swallowing every shout whole. Then Bee froze and told us to listen. A laugh drifted through the trees. Bright, familiar. Willow's laugh, exactly the way she laughed whenever someone tripped over a root. Relief hit me first. Then I realized the sound hadn't come from ahead of us. It had come from directly above. Every flashlight swung up into the canopy. Nothing there, just leaves and dark branches. For half a second, my light caught the bottom of a white sneaker, impossibly high up in the tree line. I blinked, and it was gone. To this day, none of us agree on what we saw up there. Nora remembers a hand. Bea remembers nothing at all, but every single one of us remembers hearing her. We kept searching. The trail disappeared beneath us. The creek that should have been to our left wasn't anywhere. Then, one by one, every flashlight started dimming. Not dying, just fading, like the dark between the trees was drinking the light before it reached very far. The woods went completely silent. No crickets, no wind, just 6 kids breathing. Then 5. I don't remember who saw her first. Beneath a cedar tree, curled on her side, one arm stretched out in front of her, hand open, waiting, the exact way she always reached back for me. For 1 second, I thought she was asleep. Jonah grabbed me before I could reach her. Her eyes were open. She wasn't breathing. And somewhere far off in the trees, another whistle drifted through the woods. Nobody moved toward it. None of us even remembered hearing it until years later. The official report called it a tragic accident. Nobody could explain why there were no footprints around her body, not even her own. For 8 years, I didn't ask questions. Then Jonah told me about the moon, and I couldn't stop after that. I met Nora first. She remembered hearing Willow crying that night in the trees. I remembered her laughing. We sat there insisting on opposite memories, both of us completely certain. Next was Jonah. He didn't remember a creek existing in those woods at all, the same creek where we used to catch frogs together as kids. When I asked who found Willow's body first, he said he used to know. Now he didn't. Then I went to Zeke. He was drinking alone behind his father's shop at noon. He told me he'd wondered for 8 years when I'd finally show up to blame him. I asked him about his cousin from Miller's Crossing, the one who taught him the game. He went pale, said he couldn't remember him anymore. Said he used to know exactly who that cousin was, and now there was just nothing there. I don't think he was my cousin, he told me. I think I just said that. He couldn't tell me why. 2 nights later, Bea called me, her voice shaking. She'd found something in her grandmother's attic, a bundle of notebooks tied together with old twine, full of newspaper clippings going back decades. A boy in 1949, a girl in 1968, twins in 1986, a 12-year-old in 1999. Every single clipping described the same details: no footprints, flashlights failing, a whistle, friends who never remembered the same story twice. Bea's grandmother appeared in the doorway and told us she'd recognized the pattern the night Willow died, because she'd played the same game herself, decades earlier, and lost someone the same way. She said the rules people pass down through generations aren't traditions. They're apologies for forgetting. On the last page of the notebook, in shaky, half-erased handwriting, was one line. Today I remembered who taught us the game. Beneath it, gouged into the paper so hard the light shone through, was a second line, written years later. I forgot again. I don't remember the drive home that night, just the road, and then my driveway, and the notebook sitting open on my passenger seat to that final page. Inside my house, everything looked normal. Too normal. I set the notebook on the table and stood there staring at it. Then I heard it. One long whistle, coming from somewhere behind my house. There are no woods behind my house, just a strip of yard, a fence, then the road into town. I walked outside anyway. The yard dissolved into a darkness that felt thicker than it should have. And past the fence, the trees weren't the ones that belonged there. They were older, denser. Wrong. A single flashlight swayed faintly between the trunks. I called out. No answer. The light dipped, like whoever held it had looked down at their feet. And then it went out. I reached the fence. It was colder than wood should be. Then I felt a breath, right beside my ear, and when I turned around, the fence wasn't there anymore. The trees had closed in around me, not chasing, just arriving, the way something arrives when it's finally allowed to. A whistle came again, from every direction at once, like the forest itself remembered exactly how this game was supposed to work. I turned my flashlight on. For half a second, I saw them in the beam, shapes between the trunks, not stepping forward, not stepping back, just standing there, like they always had been, and I'd only just learned how to see them. One of them raised an arm, not waving, pointing deeper into the trees. My feet started moving before I decided to let them. Somewhere far ahead, low on the ground, curled on its side, waiting, I saw something pale. I don't think I ever made it back out of those woods.